Greetings and welcome to Patriot 6. I recently released a video on improving helipad locations. Unfortunately, for the sake of time, I glossed over the portion of the video where I built polygons for ground textures. In hindsight, this may not be very clear. So this is a companion video where I will go deeper into building the polygons for the textures. And here is a brief pause to learn how to navigate my videos. Before I upload each video, I go through the video and mark timelines to set chapters. And I do this to make it more convenient for the viewer. Anytime you're watching one of the videos, you can drop down to the description, tick on the Show More, and as you roll through the Show More, it will have pertinent information like the Patriot Six Channel, the Patriot Six Scenery Group, Discord, any videos that I believe are relevant to the subject, and then you get into the chapters of the video. This is the subject content, and here are the basic tutorials. You can skip around, or you can come back and find a chapter that you may need to rewatch later simply by ticking on the number, and you will immediately go to the chapter that you selected. My goal is to make a simple task appear simple enough. So, I will add context to the content. If you are new to SDK building, the tutorials at the end of this video will help you prepare to build scenery and cover the basic concepts needed to succeed. Now to the subject content. I'm going to start with a pre-prepared test package, which I built in advance to this video. The tutorials that follow will walk through everything that it takes to build scenery packages, so I'm not going to go over all of that detail because I have that detail covered in the tutorials. On the project editor, I'm going to drop down in the scenery BGL. Up on the inspector, I'm going to load in editor. And this will bring up the tools that I need, the objects window, the gizmo, the scenery editor. And at this time, the scenery objects are loading into the scenery library. In addition to that, the material editor is up and it is over on a second monitor. Honestly, the area I picked is complex in terms of the polygons it will need. It will serve the purpose because we're going to need multiple polygons and we're going to need several materials. Now a word about polygons. As you build polygons, perspective will play a role. So I'm going up to the scenery editor, I'm going to polygon, and I'm going to start building a polygon. And let's say I want to take this polygon around here, but I don't want the polygon to override the concrete there. I want to go around here, and here, and here, and so on. It looks good. Everything looks fine. And I can stop the polygon there. Now when I get closer and change my visual perspective, we'll see how far off I was from the edge of the concrete. Here's a polygon directly overhead, and my intention was to go here. Back here, it looks like that goal was achieved. However, because of perspective, I am off. The easy way not to be fooled by perspective is to stay over the top of the polygon as best you can throughout the build by actually adjusting your camera location and your camera angle. Another thing about polygons, if you're building a polygon, let's start one. And let's say I make a mistake and put a point over here where I don't want it. Well, you can go back to the scenery editor, go to the edit button and hit the undo, and that will remove that point. And you can continue on in the direction you want. You can always start another polygon if you make a mistake. I've been guilty of messing up polygons and having to start all over, so it happens. But as I build the polygon, I can continue to move my camera and stay over the top of it to take care of perspective. The first thing I'm going to do is build a very large polygon, get as straight over it as I can, so perspective doesn't get me. So I'm going to surround this whole area with a polygon and exclude the AI generated trees. I want the trees out of the way so that I have clear vision of all of the areas I'm working. And again, this is just temporary. I can start anywhere I want. And it doesn't matter. I want to make sure I take a big enough area that I do get rid of the trees. And now with the temporary polygon built, I'm going to look over in the properties. If you don't have the properties up, you can get to it on the scenery editor by ticking view and ticking properties. So in the properties window, I'm going to vegetation, and you'll see immediately trees fill in the entire area. I'm going to bring the slider down, and that will remove the AI generated trees. And we'll remove this polygon later. So the inevitable happened. For those of you that follow my channel, you're aware that I recommend saving this scenery often. But I started building polygons for this project, had all of this area covered and videoed, went to take a bio break, something that old men do quite often. I came back and the simulator had locked up. I had not saved the scenery, so I lost everything that I did. So I will begin again. Lesson learned. Always save the scenery, and for me, follow my own advice. So I want to get the point across without taking forever in the video. So we got three main materials here. We have the concrete, the asphalt, and the ground material. So I'm going to start and build a portion of this using a polygon for the concrete, and then I will continue on with the ancillary polygons. So I'll find a starting point to begin. Make sure in the objects window I'm on polygon. And let's make the concrete polygon. And where the trees are located, you just have to guess where you think the concrete is. So the first polygon is built, and if I bring up the material editor with the polygon selected, if I go to a Sobo concrete and find a concrete, drag it over into the materials on the properties window, you can see what I included into the polygon. But I want to see what's under it for the additional polygons. So on the properties window, I'm going to X the material off. And now I can start making the additional polygons for the ground texture and for the asphalt. And I had some issues because of perspective, so I want to fix those. Basically, what's causing this perspective shift is because of the building nearby. You'll see the polygons up in the air. We should be able to deal with that though. And the polygons might overlap, but that's not going to hurt anything. I want to make sure that I work around this walk. Now I'm going to build a polygon for the asphalt. Now one last thing is to put the polygons for the vegetation over the top of the polygon for the asphalt. And you can zoom in, get as close as you want, and be as precise as you want. Okay, I'm going to add 2 more polygons, one here, and that should be good enough for a demonstration. Okay, there we go. Let's save the scenery. Now let's begin with the first polygon for the concrete and make sure I have it selected. I'm going to bring up the material editor. I'm on a Sobo concrete. I'm going to use the square white and drag it up into the materials on the properties window, which is on top of the inspector in case you're wondering. And if you want to mess around with the coloration, you can tick on this box here. And you don't really see a black in the color band, so you're going to have to make a choice. Since I'm looking for more of a gray-white look, I'll use the blue tab. And that looks okay. So we have the base of the concrete down. So the next thing I'm going to do is lay the asphalt down. And I believe this is the correct polygon for the asphalt. So on the materials, I'm going to look for a Selbo asphalt. And you take your pick. Here is a black. I'll go with that and see how this works. Drag it up in the materials. The black is in there, but we don't see it. And that's because it's covered up by the concrete. So a little lesson here. When we tick on the concrete, we see the concrete polygon at a priority of 0. So that means for the asphalt to show up, we need to take it to a priority of 1. So I'm going down here in the scenery editor, find the polygon for the asphalt, and the material's already in. Let's take the asphalt priority up 1. And there we go. And now we can adjust the color. I believe I saw a runway asphalt that looked pretty good. Okay, that's not too bad there. Could darken it up if I want to. Maybe a little bit. Now let's put the grass textures in. Now the good thing about this is you can see, even with the materials present, you can see the other polygons. It's important that you build all the polygons before you start laying in materials. It'll work a little better for you. So I'm going back to a Selbo ground on the materials and grab any grass. And let's start here. Grass 2, sure. Again, it's on top of the concrete, so I'm going to have to raise the priority. And let's find a green color. That'll do for now. And let's add the material into the second polygon here. And I believe I used grass 2. So slide it up in the materials. Change the color. It'll look a little better for the area. So far so good. And you might have noticed that a priority of 0 worked, and that's because it's not on top of another texture. Let's go with this one. Grass 2. And I'm going to have to raise the priority up 1 because it's on top of the concrete. And now adjust the color. Something in the ballpark. Same thing here. Grass 2. Use any grass you want. It's just a random selection on my part. Now, this one doesn't show up, and that's because it's on top of the concrete and it needs a higher priority. So when I take it to 1, it works. And continue on placing the materials and setting the correct priority. Everything on the concrete goes up by 1. And the color. Each time I put 1, I'm placing the priority in. Now I'm down on the really small polygons. Bring the priority up by 1 and adjust the color. Material in, priority up. Adjust the color. Now here's where it gets really fun, because the asphalt's on the concrete and the grass is going to be on top of the asphalt. So with the concrete, a priority is 0, the asphalt at 1, 2 should be the number for this one. Material in, priority up to 2, and there it is. And adjust the color. Same thing for these here. Now let's save the scenery. And now we can look for any adjustments we need to make. So on the polygon for the concrete, or the grass, either one, we can grab the points and move the points to make up for anything where I didn't do so well. Now, right now, I'm ticked on the polygon. I need another point here, so I'm going to right-click and add a point. Grab that point and slide it up. Bring this one down to give us a better look. Let's move these up. This is just the fine tweaking. Now here is the polygon that's due to perspective is up in the air. So we can grab the polygon and move it wherever we need to get it to fit. I think that's a better fit there. And that's how you lay the textures. Is it perfect? No. Is it good enough? I think so. And basically this is the same principle I used for this entire area. I just wanted to condense it down a bit into a smaller bite. There is multi-layered textures, how you get them to work with the priorities. You know what? Let's save the scenery. And let's go ahead and build the package. Package is built, no additional errors, that's a good thing. So let's shut the editors down. And I'm going to bring up the community folder. Now if you use the add-on linker, you'll want to put this in whatever folder is necessary to work with your add-on linker. And here is the test scenery package. And I'm going to open it up, and then I'm going to open up the packages folder, and it says Patriot 6 test scenery, and I want to move it over in the community folder, and it went fine. So let's restart and see how it looks. Okay, back in the simulator. Options, I'm going to pause the simulator, hit ready to fly. I'm going to hop in the developer camera. And here we go. You can see that the layered textures look fine. And that will conclude this video. But I wanted to give a more granular look into how I added the textures. Perhaps in my quest to make a shorter video, I may have glossed over some things that you may not know. And if that's the case, I hope this was helpful. I hope this makes sense on how I added the textures, the same process I used for the entire complex. And that's how you do it, and that's how you layer textures. If this is your first time around, I would appreciate you subscribing to the channel. If you are a subscriber, thank you very much. Having subscribers really helps the algorithm to send a video out to more folks. I really like to make videos as needed. Perhaps someone requests them at times and I will make them. Or often based on questions asked of me in the YouTube chat, it lets me know where understanding is lacking of other folks. And speaking of chat, you are certainly welcome to ask questions. I answer every question. I believe in responding to the people that take the time to watch the videos that I make. We are limited in what we can fix in chat, so there are other alternative methods. There is a Patriot Six Facebook scenery group. So again, I'd appreciate it if you're not a subscriber to subscribe. For the folks that follow me, thank you very much for being loyal. It means a lot to me. And you could drop in the description below and find the Discord. If the Discord link doesn't work, hit me up in the comments. For some reason, I'm a bit Discord challenged when it comes to sending links. One of these days, I'm going to figure out one link that works all of the time. Immediately following this video is the tutorial series I put together for folks that are starting out. So if you want to continue on after this and watch the tutorials, that would be a good idea if you don't already understand it, and it will help you immensely. And for all of you, again, thanks for watching. This is Patriot 6. I hope to see you soon. Welcome to Patriot 6. I make SDK tutorial videos for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. I keep the videos simple with the beginner in mind, folks that have yet to attempt to build scenery in SDK. In addition, I keep the videos up to date. If methods change with SDK updates, I will update the videos as needed. I will timestamp the video, and you can drop down in the video description, tick on the See More button, and see the chapters of this video. You may need to revisit a section. The timestamps simplify video navigation. In addition, you will see relevant videos linked in the description. For example, a Polygon tutorial is always linked to the videos because polygons are essential for building scenery in MSFS 2020. Furthermore, a polygon is a diverse tool that includes and excludes objects and materials for several applications. You will also find a link to Patriot 6 Discord, which is an international group of folks, and we all help each other with scenery-related issues. The tutorials in this video are downloading SDK and Samples, set up the SDK Editor Windows, the external tools, operating the developer camera, creating a thumbnail, creating a scenery folder, building a simple polygon, and package completion and community folder migration. And with that, let's jump into the tutorials. Now we're going to obtain SDK and the samples. And the first step we're going to do is we're going up to Options. We're going to go to General Options. We're going to drop down to Developers, On, Apply and Save. And once you go into Developers mode, you will see a new menu pop at the top. I call this the Developers menu. And from the Developers menu, go to Help and tick on SDK Installer Core. And a window will come up and download SDK. Now once SDK is downloaded, you can open and start the installation. And for me, once SDK was installed, it installed in a folder on my C drive called MSFS SDK. Once SDK is installed, you can go back to the Help menu and you can drop down to Samples and download the samples. You will go through the same process as before, where the downloader will open up your browser and start to download the SDK samples. And once the download is complete, you can go up to the folder, open the folder, and the installation will begin. Here's a change that I noted as of SU12. In the past, you would see SDK up in your right-hand window. And as long as it was blue, you had the most current, up-to-date SDK. But I have noticed in SU12, it's now changed. On the developer menu where it says Dev Mode, if there is an update, you will see a little yellow button here just like you do for a Windows update. And to update the SDK, you can tick on Dev Mode and tick on SDK Updates. A window will pop up which will allow you to download SDK updates. And once you've downloaded the SDK updates, you can tick the refresh button, and the refresh button will clear any notices that you have that SDK needs an update. And now I'm going to walk through how you set up the SDK windows while in developers mode. In the previous versions of SDK, you would go up to Tools to bring up your windows, but that has now changed. In the newest version of SDK, you want to go up to Editors. And we're going to start out with the Project Editor and tick on it. And here is what you get. Now, I do not like this particular look. I have resized all the windows and moved them where I like the windows to be. This is subjective. You may want to put your windows in a different location, but when you start out with the new SDK, it's going to default to this look. So to resize, we're going up to the Project Editor, grab a hold of it, and move it. Sometimes it seems to be a little tricky. It doesn't want to move, but you can move it. And then once you move it, you can spread it out and make it the size you want. You can go down to the bottom right-hand corner and size the window up. Same thing with the inspector. And I like my project editor to be over here and the inspector to be here. And now I have the project editor and the inspector relatively in a location I prefer. You can tick the inspector off and on from the project editor menu by ticking View. Now let's talk about the external tools. These tools can vary from person to person, but I'll tell you what I like to do. I have a folder built and placed on my desktop called the Working Scenery folder. In the Working Scenery folder, I always keep a fresh copy of Simple Scenery, and any scenery folders I'm currently working on would be in this folder, and I'll keep them there until they are completed. In addition to that, I recommend that you have a completed package folder. I keep a completed packages folder, and everything that I've ever built I keep in this folder. In any event, I want to come back and change some scenery that I built in the past, and you can do that. And then I can go to the completed packages and pull up the folder that I need, move it to the Working Scenery folder, and continue working on the project. I also keep a personal thumbnail handy in the Working Scenery folder. Occasionally you will need a text editor. I like to use Notepad++, but you use whatever works for you. And the text editor is simply for information you want to retain. For an example, if you're building an airport, you're going to want to get the GPS coordinates of the airport, and you can go to a map and get the GPS coordinates, and you can paste the GPS coordinates in the text editor and have that ready for you when you need it during the project build. Now that I'm loaded in the simulator, I want to use the developer camera. So back up on the developer menu, under camera, I'm going to tick on developer camera, and it will place you outside the aircraft like so. Once outside the aircraft, the developer camera operates a lot like the drone camera. If I want to move forward, I can press the W key. If I want to move in reverse, I can press the S key. If I want to go left, I can use the A key. And if I want to go right, I can use the D key. If I want to rise, I could use the R key. And if I want to drop, I can use the F key. You can also use the numeral keys for certain movements. To spin to the left on the numeric keypad, you want to press 4. And to turn to the right on the numeric keypad, you want to use 6. You can also use 8 to pan up and 2 to pan down. If your azimuth gets off, which it will do when you're building scenery, you can use the 7 key to tilt to the left and the 9 key to tilt to the right. And even though you will use a combination of all of these keys while building scenery, the way you will most often move around is free movement. And you can freely move by holding down the left Alt key and using the left mouse button. Now here's what happens if I just press the left Alt button and use the mouse. Sometimes you can have fine movement like this, and sometimes you will shoot way away from where you want to be. You can always press the 5 key and it will bring you back to the aircraft. So the best practice I have found is to use the F key and drop down. Then take the left Alt key, press it, and barely move with the left mouse button. And that gives you fine control, and that's what you're looking for with the camera. And now let's create a thumbnail. Creating a thumbnail is not a function within Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. It's a simple Windows function. And you can do this with very simple tools. You can actually use a screenshot and use Microsoft Paint. You can use the standard snipping tool in Windows to grab a picture. It doesn't take expensive or elaborate tools to make a thumbnail. Let's say I want to build a thumbnail of the city where I live, Nashville, Tennessee, because I'm going to add scenery here. Then I would just find a picture that's suitable to me on the web. And then I would use the Windows snipping tool. And I would grab a portion of the photo. I'm going to grab a snippet that appears close to the aspect ratio of the thumbnail. Now once I have it, I can just save it wherever I want to. In this case, I'll go ahead and save it in the working scenery folder. And now I'll bring up just standard Microsoft Paint and open the photo that I just captured. If you want to add some text, you can. It's up to you. And now with the text added, we want to resize the image. For a thumbnail in Microsoft Flight Simulator, it has to be exactly 412 by 170 pixels. So I'm going to the resize, and I'm going to go to pixels. I'm going to unlink the aspect ratio so I get the image at the exact size. It's 412, 170. Hit OK, and now the image is resized for Microsoft Flight Simulator. And now I can save the image. And now I actually have this for use in the package. And that's how easy it is to build a thumbnail. So let's create our first scenery folder. So here I have the working scenery folder. Let's drop down to where the SDK folder was installed. As I said earlier, it's installed on my C drive as MSFS SDK. We want to open the SDK folder. We want to go to Samples. We want to go to Dev Mode Projects. Then we want to go to Sceneries. And let's make a copy of the simple scenery folder and paste it inside the working scenery folder. As I said before, I always like to have a fresh copy of simple scenery in the working scenery folder. So to create a project, I want to make a copy of the Simple Scenery folder and paste it, and of course it gives me Simple Scenery Copy, and I'm going to rename it. If you build a generic package in Microsoft Flight Simulator, the generic package is going to say My Company Scenery Simple. The three words are separated by hyphens. I stick with that naming convention, but it's up to you. I'm going to rename the Simple Scenery copy to Patriot 6 Nashville Lights Scenery. And I'm going to use this same name in the package. Now let's go down to the project editor. Let's hit project, open project, go to the folder that I just renamed, Patriot 6 Nashville Lights Scenery, and open. Drop to the bottom XML and open. And you will see the package name, My Company Scenery Simple. So we're going to tick on it, and up here at the top is where the package gets its name. So I'm going to change this package to match the scenery folder. So I have Patriot 6 Nashville Lights Scenery. The second section here is for the content manager. I'll call it Nashville Lights. Enter my creator name, go down to the thumbnail, tick on it, and navigate to the working scenery folder and grab the thumbnail that we created. The last thing we want to do, if you'll look down here, you'll see marketplace data, my scene, and my model lib. If you have no plans of putting this on the marketplace, which I doubt that you do, I would tick on the marketplace data and remove the data. And you're going to get this warning, and I'm going to tick only remove from current project and remove. Up here where it says asset groups, that's where we have my scene and my model lib. We can tick the edit button here, or we can simply tick on each one of these and rename them. And I recommend that we rename the BGL and the model lib to match the package. So I could hit edit here, or I can tick here. Either one works. And I'm going to take my out and I'm leave scene in there. And I added Nashville Lights and left scene in there. And now it's Nashville Lights Scene BGL. I'm going to do the same thing with model lib, leaving model lib in and taking my out. And now if we look down here, the model lib and the BGL are unique. And now I want to tick on the package and make sure everything lights up in the inspector, and I have the build package option. And before we can do any scenery work, we have to build the initial package. So let's do that. This dialog box pops up because the information is different than what's saved to disk. And of course it is because we edited all the information, so we want to tick yes. And now the package is built, and if we look up here in the errors, we have 0 errors. So we are good to go. If I had not removed the marketplace data, it would have shown an error. Now, I don't think this error would matter and cause a problem, but rather than take a chance, I just removed the marketplace data. Now, the next thing we want to do is drop down to the BGL and load in the editor. And the windows are going to be all over the place, so we're going to have to adjust the windows. I'll start with the scenery editor. I like it down here. And the objects, I like the objects to look like this, and up here The material editor, we'll use it in a second, but I'm going to move it to the second monitor. Now let's go back and find the gizmo. I can go to View on the Scenery Editor and tick on the gizmo. And now I'm going to have to resize the gizmo to something more of my liking. And something else that is handy often is the Properties window, and you can get to it from the Scenery Editor. Go down to View and tick on Properties and bring it up and put it wherever you want. And we're still waiting on the scenery objects to load in, and they just loaded in. So everything in the library is now loaded in. So let's add a few simple things and see how they look. First thing I'm going to do is show you how to build a simple polygon. This is not going to be a thorough tutorial on polygons, but a very simple way to build polygons. There is a video in the description that shows you all the things you can do with polygons, and I recommend that you watch that video. But up on the Objects window, I'm going from Scenery to Polygon. And to start a polygon, you have to hit the Add button on the Objects window. And when you do, you're going to get an error down here in the Scenery Editor. And that error is temporary. Once you complete the polygon, the error will go away. So I hit Add, and you see the error down here, and you see the polygon shows as an error. You're going to hold the left control key down, and you should see a little red X following you around. And every time you tick with the left mouse button, you will set an anchor point. So that was a tick, another tick, another tick, another tick. And then when you get to the last point, just double tick. And now the polygon is complete. Presently, the polygon is selected. But if you get off the polygon, you can either tick in the middle, which works most of the time. Sometimes if you have a lot of objects and it's very busy where you're working, you may have trouble ticking on the polygon. You can simply go over to the Scenery Editor and select the polygon there. So with a simple polygon built, I'm going to insert a material into the polygon. This is just a couple of the features that you can do with polygons. I do recommend you watch the full video. Let's go with the Sobo ground, and let's just grab any grass. And this is where we'll need the Properties window. Down here in the Properties window at the bottom, you'll see Materials. I'm going to take the Sobo grass and drag it over into the Materials. And now we have a grass material in place in the polygon. If we want to use something else, like say a Sobo concrete, we can go grab a concrete and drag it into the materials. Whatever material you need, you can drag in here. One last thing on the polygon, you can edit the polygon after you've built it. In other words, if you want to change the shape, make it fit a little better, you can go down here and grab one of the corners, like I just did, and drag it. And whatever shape you want, you can make it. This comes in really handy, say for an example, if we were putting grass in this area here, and after I got the polygon built, it just didn't fit exactly right, I could drag and move the polygon around. And you could also do one more thing. You can add points. So by ticking on it, I can say add point, and it will add a new point. And this can come in very handy when you're trying to make things fit. So let's find one more thing to add here. I'm going back up to the Objects window. I'm going to tick on Scenery, and I'm going to tick on Mast, M-A-S-T, and I'm going to find an airport lamp and add it, and here it is, and I'll just drag it to the middle. This is all we need to show you how it works. So now I'm going down to the scenery editor and I'm going to save the scenery. The scenery is saved, but before this will work, we have to go back to the project editor, make sure we're ticked on the package, and we have to build the final package. So you have to have a package build initially to start, and you have to build the final package for everything that you've added to be included in the package. And those two steps are a must. If you do not do those, this will not work. So always remember, build the first package, add your scenery, make sure you save the scenery. If you're working on a big project, I would save the scenery often. Just in the event you have a crash to desktop, you want to make sure you save as much of the work as you can. So with everything saved and everything in place, I'm going to build the final package. And you see we don't have any errors, so we are good. So we can shut the console down. We can go to the editor and shut the project and the scenery down, and shut the material editor down. Let's go to the working scenery folder, and let's also bring up the community folder. If we open the working scenery folder, it will look different now than it did before, and now we have a folder called Packages. And if you open that folder, you will see the package, Patriot 6 Night Light Scenery. And just to be clear, if you open a package and look in it, you should see a Content Info folder, a Scenery folder, a Layout JSON, and a Manifest JSON. And if you have those in there, you should be good to go. So let's make a copy of this package, and let's paste it into the community folder. And I see it's in the community folder. So let's restart the sim and see that we have this. Okay, we're back in the simulator and we're at the location, and I can already see our grass and our pole out in front of us. But let's go ahead and hop in the developer camera and take a look around. And there is the simple grass we added with the polygon and the light mast. And should we turn the lights down, you would see this light functions just fine. So with the information that's been given to you in this tutorial series, you are ready to build your own packages. The sky's the limit. Use your imagination and do whatever you want to do. And if you're not a subscriber of Patriot 6, I would appreciate it if you would subscribe. I keep the videos up to date. I believe this is my third or fourth tutorial series. Anytime Microsoft makes an update that changes how the SDK works, I have to go in and redo the videos. That's part of it. But it keeps you up to date. So if you don't mind, if you enjoyed the content and you think the content is helpful, please give a thumbs up and a subscribe. And you can search the channel. I have videos covering many subjects. And I continue to add more as I think it's needed for the community. Also, below in the description, you can find a link to the Patriot 6 Facebook page. And there we have a community of international folks of all levels of skills, and mostly we help each other out when we have issues, questions, or problems. And there's also a Patriot 6 Discord channel. But I hope you enjoyed this tutorial series, and I hope to see you soon. I hope you become a subscriber, and I would like to say thank you for watching this video, and this is Patriot 6, and I will see you soon.